to Romanian culture. Let's go.
Okay.
Sit.
My name is Jose Mencomo. I was born in Panama and I moved to the US at the age of 9, and I've been living in Germany for the past 8 years. My role in this course is that I'm a 3D environment artist. My friends and family don't fully understand what I do, but they do influence my work because I show them my results and they always give me feedback, and I find that very valuable for my process. The first game that made me think that I want to work in games was Assassin's Creed 2, because it took place in Italy and I felt so immersed into the game that it made me want to really visit Italy, and I thought that the experience of playing this game was really fulfilling and immersive, and I would like to make games that make players feel the same way. The most personal project I worked on was my final project for my diploma. And the reason why this project mattered to me was because it allowed me to see the full workflow and pipeline of an environment creation, and it made creating environments for me no longer seem so daunting because it allowed me to understand the process and how the pieces come together. That's a tough one because I do struggle a bit with the emotional side. Sometimes when I receive feedback, I see it more like as an attack on my art as opposed to constructive feedback. And the way that I deal with this is by doing meditation and getting different perspectives from my friends. And then it reminds me that the feedback that I'm getting is not meant to be destructive, but rather constructive. Of course, our project that we are working on is inspired by both Sekiro and Cyberpunk. And what we would like to do is to blend these two aesthetics together, where we create a game that is a Souls-like game like Sekiro, while blending the aesthetic of a game like Cyberpunk 2077. And the lore of the game is basically that you're playing as one of the members of the city that is exploiting this village that is nearby. And as the main character, your job is to take down one of the villagers who has discovered information about the city and wants to start a revolution in the village. The way that I would like to blur the lines between traditional feudal Japan and cyberpunk is that I would like to create the architecture that is indeed feudal and traditional Japan, and then add modern things to it like cables and neon lights, billboards and things like that, and as well as some modern things like computers and the clothing as well, and as well as the weapon. We want to add aspects of it that makes it feel more sci-fi and more futuristic, while at the same time keeping this aesthetic of feudal Japan. And with this in mind, I think we can definitely blur the lines between feudal traditional Japan and a more sci-fi and more art style like Cyberpunk 2077. Well, of course, I will stick to the main inspirations of the game, like Sekiro and Cyberpunk 2077 and Night City. But I would also get some inspiration of scale and proportions from games like Stray, which also has a lot of very proportionate and environmental aesthetics that I would like to see in this game. And I think by blending all of these things together, it should definitely work. Certainly. The way that I usually go about making assets in the game is the typical workflow of 3D artists, which is to make a low poly and a high poly. And the first thing that I do when creating assets or environments is to block out what I need in order to get a sense of proportion, size, scale. And once I have those things, then I'm able to go into the process of creating primary, secondary, and tertiary detail to modeling. And once I have those things, then I can start the usual project of unwrapping my elements, ensuring that I have good textile density and UV packing. And once that is done, I am able to import my asset into Substance Painter, where I can make the high poly into the low poly, and start texturing. And for the texturing process, then I continue this routine of working first on the primary detail, blocking out the colors and the materials that I'm using for each asset, and then working on the secondary details of like colors, roughness, how dull or shiny something is. And then I can move on to tertiary details, which allows me to work on things like functionality and think about aspects of the asset, like which part of this asset is going to be more damaged, how does that damage work, so I'll do research on how the asset itself is made in real life, and which parts will get damaged over time, and how certain things get damaged. Like for example, in our carbon fiber handle in our katana, you can see the animation because carbon fiber doesn't get rusty like metal does. So by doing this type of research, I am able to make things look convincing and realistic, while at the same time be able to create something new that hasn't been done before in the real world. And finally, to finish the process, I import my low poly with the textures, and I create a material or shader in Unreal Engine that allows me to add the material into this low poly asset to make it look very detailed and high poly. The tools that I use for concepting is usually PureRef, where I can gather as many references as possible for the asset that I'm going to be making. And this allows me to get an idea of what I want to make, and also like grab different aspects of things, like maybe I like how this blade looks or like how this handle looks. And I can pick and match things that I like in order to create a unique asset. And in addition to that, I also use programs like Photoshop, where I can actually blend images together in order to get a result that allows me to visualize the idea that I have.